Hey guys, welcome back to the Patar Project. I'm your host Nick Patar. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today I'm joined by Jayden Nikorima. Many would know him as that young kid that signed the big money deal at the Sydney Roosters, which didn't pan out well. He went down a path of drugs and alcohol, which led to his contract being torn up, a court case against him, and then being charged with drink driving. Jayden is now on the path to redemption and reigniting his NRL career, but in the meantime, he's working on himself both mentally and physically, as well as helping others, working with the youth in the community. Grateful to have Jayden on the podcast to share his story. I really appreciate it. It just goes to show that no matter who you are, if you're an NRL player or someone that's working 9 to 5, you can go through those mental struggles. You can go through those ups and downs of life. So really appreciate Jayden jumping on. As always, all I ask is that you pay the fee of liking, sharing, subscribing. And you can also show your support by signing up to my Patreon for as little as $5 a month. It just really helps me to continue growing the podcast. So thank you once again. Let's jump into this podcast. It's a real good one. I really enjoyed it. Let's go.
For those that don't know, I was in the NRL at the Roosters, and then I got caught with drugs in my system twice. Thought I could get away with it, and then I lied on a stat deck. And the reason why I thought I could get away with that was because during school, because I was good at rugby league, everything got wiped under the table. I rock up to school and I have the wrong uniform on, or I don't hand in my assignments, and the teachers just wiped it away, just because I was good at footy, and I was playing in the footy teams that same week, even though I was doing the wrong thing. So there was never any consequences for my own actions, and I don't just blame school or teachers. I mean, everything around me. There was no consequences for any of my actions. And then once you leave school, we all know you get found out when you get thrown into the real world. And it took me 18 months into the real world to get found out. And I signed a pretty big contract as a 17-year-old. It was like $700K over 3 years. And into my second year was when I got done with the second drug charge. And I was actually on my way back to sign with Brizzy. I was getting homesick, and they were losing a few players. So I was in the middle of signing with them as well to come back home, and my contract got ripped up. And obviously Brizzy didn't want me. I wasn't doing anything to help myself. And Roosters were in a bit of a rut. So they just got rid of me there and moved me on. And then I moved back to Brizzy. And the media just hammered me for being like a druggo or just doing the wrong things. There was so many negative articles about me in the media, and being 21, when you're having your back against the wall and not knowing what to do, you sort of fall into what the media is telling you and what people are telling you. And everyone around me was calling me the party boy and whatnot. And I lost my identity as a rugby league player because I wasn't allowed to play for 2 years. So I was lost. I was just hanging on to people who made me feel good about myself. And unfortunately for myself, they were people that liked indulging with drugs and alcohol. And so I just kept doing it, especially when I was back, and I didn't learn from my mistakes. I got done drink driving, blew high range, lost my license for 9 months. This is all before 22. I ended up in court for lying on that stat deck as well. And luckily I didn't go to jail, but I think you can go to jail for between 5 to 8 years as well from just signing a piece of paper and lying on it. So man, it was 22 years of just eventful stuff, not learning from my own actions. And it wasn't until my 2-year ban came up. So I'm living in Mango Hill right now, which is right next to the Redcliffe Dolphins. And I asked them if I could come in and just train and hopefully snag a contract there, here and there. But I knew they had a history of helping people get back on their path. They had Miles, Tueli, and Matt Lodge as well, who's at the Warriors. So I trusted Redcliffe, and hopefully I was hoping they'd trust me, and they did. And we had a army camp, and we went to where I work now in Newstead. Glen Azar was a guy that done the camp. And bro, it was just something different. Usually in army camps, they yell at you, you get told line your bags up, and they swear at you. And my dad's in the army, so man, I've seen it, I've been through it all, and I'm oh, this won't break me. I went in with the worst attitude. Like I remember eating half a tub of ice cream on the way there, just
Yeah, I was
thinking, man,
about to
these
say
guys,
that. I heard that you went there and you were eating ice cream in the tub in the back
yeah.
of the
I
bus.
just I just knew that I was like, bro, these blokes won't break me. Like, I've been through heaps of army camps. I I looked at myself as an NRL player, and I was around Q Cup players, as arrogant as it is, and that was just the ego that I had. So I knew they wouldn't break me, but we get in there, and Glenn sits us down, and we just jump into groups, and we do this activity where, like, if you were on a boat and you had 10 items, which one from 1 to 10 do you need the most? And you just had to work in a group collectively and do that, and then he sat down and gave us like a 2 hour mindset session. And in that mindset session, he just spoke about his life, how he has a son, Christian, who's 18, I think he is now, but he's intellectually impaired and he's got the brain capacity of like a 5, 6 year old. And that sort of hit home to me because, man, my dad's raised 4 boys. He's been in the army. He would have had to work by himself on one wage as well when mum was popping us all out. And then he was like dropping us off to our footy games and picking us up. And he didn't have to do that just for me, but my 2 other brothers that were playing, because youngest wasn't playing at the time. And when I was sitting there in this session, just thinking, bro, what have I done? Like, I've literally got done twice for drugs, which goes against my parents' values. Then I've got done driving too, which like I haven't learned from my mistakes. And my dad's always been big on like it's only a mistake if you make it twice, and like all these things were just triggering in my head. And then Glenn said a quote, and it was like, everybody wants to be a beast until it's time to do what real beasts do. And he must have said it at the right time because it just clicked for me. And I'm like, man, if I'm going to change, like I have to change now. I can't just keep talking about it. Like I've got to actually be about it. And from that camp onwards, like it was one of the best camps I've had. I probably connected way better than I ever had with any of the other players. And after the camp, I reached out to Glenn, and I found it really hard to reach out for help. But yeah, something just felt right. I just connected with Glenn. I think because he's got an army background, my dad's got an army background. He knows how to train high performers with Alyssa climbing Mount Everest. Like there was just something there, and I sent the message, nervous as waiting for a reply, and I got the reply back, and he goes, mate, like if you want help, meet me back here at the gym where you were at 4:45, I think it was, the next week. And I was like, in the morning. Are you kidding yourself? Like, but I did it anyway just to prove a point, and he did it just to see if I was keen to actually change, and I was, and yeah, the rest is now what you see. Yeah, doing the personal development camps, on the charities, and I was fortunate enough to get back into the Warriors system for a preseason before I did my shoulder. So yeah, I'm loving life right now, and I'm glad I met Glenn.
That's awesome. And just for the listeners, it goes, like, proves a point that even if you are in a dark spot, just by asking someone or reaching out, bro, you're going to get a reply. If you're being honest and sincere, people are going to reply and want to help you.
Bro, it's so hard not to as well. And with our camps, like I try to preach to the kids that like you need a mentor, and like it just depends whatever path you want to go on. If you want to go into business, if you want to go into footy, AFL, netball, like find someone that's actually walked the path of being a high performer, and then yeah, just reach out. Because I think like for me, when I get people or young kids reach out to me, it makes me feel good about myself too. And like I love giving back, and I put myself in like other people's shoes. Like, man, heaps of high performers would love the opportunity to give back. It's just they're just waiting for the people to ask. So yeah, if you are feeling stuck, or you do know someone and you're just too scared to reach out, reach out. You've got nothing to lose but everything to gain. And a big thing about me, like I love hanging out with people who add value to my life. I try, if I'm in a room, I try be like, I don't try to be the dumbest, but I try hang around people who are like smarter than me too, because you're constantly drawing value from them as well. And yeah, in due time, I'll start to add a bit more value to people below me. But yeah, I just love learning.
Exactly. You got to build yourself up before you can help others.
Yeah, exactly, bro.
And I heard one of the reasons you went back to the Warriors obviously was for the opportunity, but you wanted to help the younger boys. Is that why you were staying in the Warriors house there?
Yeah, so I had the opportunity when I don't know if it was COVID or why it was split. It must have been COVID, but half the boys were doing a preseason in Australia, and the other half were doing it in New Zealand. Like the Aussie-born ones and the ones that live here were in Oz, and I could have easily gone to Australia. I would have done a preseason with my brother and a few of the other Ready boys, but yeah, there was just something that drew me to go to New Zealand and just help out the young boys. I know, like I had learnt so much in that little time, and um, I knew back when I was in under 20s. I was doing all the wrong things, like you name it. I was drinking midweek. I wasn't prepping right. My diet was wrong, and I knew they had a few up and coming boys, and I knew they had a house there too. So yeah, I just wanted to move in there, and it wasn't really for me. It wasn't even about making the team. It was definitely about snagging a contract here and there, but it was pretty much trying to add value into the young boys, and if I could help some of them young boys change the way they change their sleeping pattern, going to bed at the right time, and trying to jump on social media and just enforce some better habits into their routine, then that'll be a job well done to me. I know I'd put them in good stead to crack the NRL. And yeah, two of the boys right now, they're actually playing in the NRL, Rocco and Ali. So I wouldn't say that's me because they were literally on the verge. Ali was already playing, but yeah, it was good to just add what I had learned and a bit of my experience to them as well.
What would you say is the difference between, what you noticed over at the Warriors, the kids coming up to when you were coming up through the 20s and that? Much difference? So I feel
Yeah,
like it's more
massively.
professional these days, even at the
Yeah,
young age.
way more professional. I feel like you can't get away with anything these days, like social media. I'm a massive fan of the under 20s not being here. When I was in the 20 system, like you played before the NRL, so you pretty much thought that you were closer to the NRL than what you actually were.
Mm.
Where now you've got to go like through your 20 system, then you got to go Q Cup, play against men, and then play NRL if you follow the right system. So
Yep.
yeah, I guess it's way more professional now. The whole system thing, um, and yeah, I felt like the culture that we had in 20s was just like it was fun. You got to drink like during the week. Not saying that that's everything, but like you got away with a lot more. You didn't have to be as professional. Where
Mm.
now, if you drink midweek, what we are doing in the 20s, like you get pulled up, your contract would get ripped up. And I'm not too sure if that's like the 2 year period now that COVID's hit. Um, but yeah,
And what was it like being in a professional system again? Because how many years would it have been?
oh, it was ages and it was
Yeah.
so good, bro. Like
Yeah.
I remember my first time I walked in to training, got the kit, and then we did a field session. And I come back in and bro, there was massive ice bath and a spa, and I was paying like I think it was like $45 for a session at Recovery Science to do my own recovery, and here it is, they're free. And I remember after the session, some of the boys weren't doing it, and I was like, bro, I had to literally like pay for this, and like we get it free, like I'm gonna use all this up. So when I got injured, I was so gutted. But man, I was so grateful just to be in this system. Little things like having your GPS and just tracking like your numbers. Like I'm a massive fan of like numbers and work rate and like high velocity speed and all that data that comes with it. So bro, yeah, I was just I was loving every moment of it. I remember I was messaging Cody all the time saying, bro, this is the best feeling. I was gutted that I didn't get the opportunity to train with him. I think I got probably one or two sessions when I was injured to train with Codes in Kiama, but yeah, no, I was so grateful, and having that little taste of the preseason, like I want it back so bad, eh?
That's awesome, bro. And I guess being out of the game for so long, you wouldn't take it for granted anymore. Like all these
No,
players that have gone, 20s through the system, they've been in a professional system this whole time. and sometimes they probably do take all that stuff for granted that you had to pay for.
Yeah, 100%. Like, man, I would never take that for granted. And I feel like I wouldn't say I owe rugby league a lot, but like growing up through the years, like, yeah, they gave me heaps. They put me in, yeah, good stead to actually be a professional and be successful in this life. And unfortunately for myself, I probably didn't do the right personal development throughout my junior years to be that successful. But yeah, I tarnished the game, and yeah, I owe it to myself to give back to the game and to give back to the grassroots, and just keep providing for not just the game too, but myself and the people around it. Because rugby league in itself it's a good game and it keeps a lot of people out of trouble. But yeah, we just gotta try rein the media to give better stories.
Yeah, they just love throwing all the negative stories out there.
Right, it's no good, eh? But anything for some
Exactly.
views.
Yeah. Now let's backtrack a bit. So you signed the 3-year deal at the Roosters. Was it 700K? You said. What's it like as a 17-year-old getting chucked all that money?
Yeah, I was like, it's a hard question to ask because I didn't actually get chucked all that money. Like when I was getting paid, my mum took control of my money, thank God, and should give me, or should put half into my savings. Should make sure my rent and all my bills are paid, and then I'd get the rest. So I was sort of getting in my bank what I was getting in Brizzy anyway, because when I was in Brizzy, I wasn't paying rent, etc. So but yeah, as a 17-year-old, it was still so much money. I could go out, buy any clothes that I wanted, choose, and not stress about it. Um, yeah, I could go eat out whenever I wanted to, but yeah, just the person that I was going out and drinking and buying drugs and doing all the wrong thing, and it wasn't just one good night too. Like it was like several good nights over the month that I could afford because I was on so much money. So I could have turned it into a positive, but I didn't. And I've definitely learned from that. Like after that, them years, like moving back home, I had to move in with mum. So I went from like living in a 2-bedroom apartment by myself, paying like $650 a week rent, to coming back home and living with mum. Wasn't allowed to work, etc. So I had to like budget, live off like $100 a week. So I've lived on at both ends on the spectrum, and I'm definitely more grateful and more aware of like how to use my money, and yeah.
At the Roosters, why do you think you went down that negative spiral? Was too much expectation being the young kid signed on the big money, or
Yeah, I said it earlier, but I guess just not having consequences for my own actions, and then on the other end, not being accountable for my own actions. Like because I always got away with things, I thought I could always lie. And when I went to the Chooks, I'd never really been injured that much. I think I went over there actually with having just done shoulder surgery, so it would have been my first real injury. But then I played my first NRL game off the back of my shoulder injury, and I think I just wasn't ready, to be honest. And it's hard to tell a 17, 18-year-old kid that you're not ready because, man, like you think you are, you think you're bulletproof. And that was me. And it wasn't like till 7 games in, I think, or 8 games in, I played and I got dropped from the team and played under 20s. And I thought, like, I've obviously carved up the under 20s 2 years prior. So going back to the under 20s, I thought it was going to be easy. And man, I got carved up my first game by the Dragons, and I just thought like, bro, what is happening to me? Like, I was so low on confidence. And then I think the week after that, I ended up tearing my hammy, and then it was just a constant cycle from there, trying to get back in. But every game that I seem to try come back into, I keep tearing my hammy. So, yeah, nothing felt like it was going right for me, and that's why I felt like I fell into a bit of a hole. For me, man, like everyone kept telling me on this side that like, man, you're good. You just need to keep trusting yourself, blah blah blah. And then you've got the media on this side saying, man, he's rubbish. It's like a bad signing, and then like everything just goes in through your head. And if you haven't done the right work to yourself, and if you haven't, yeah, done the right work to be able to handle them situations, and when your back is against the wall, have the resilience to overcome that, then you're going to fall into the trap. And unfortunately, 19-year-old Jayden fell into the trap, and yeah, it didn't end well.
No. And I guess back then, was there any welfare for you? Like, especially, did the Roosters give you any welfare?
Right. So there was a welfare officer, I remember, but your welfare officer does your education as well. So it's sort of hard to put them two together.
Yeah.
Um, he was a good guy, and yeah, I said earlier too, like I didn't really reach out for help when I probably should have. So that's my own fault, but I'd love to see a bit more ownership on the welfare officer, embedding more personal development too, because um, people can people can talk about depression and whatnot, but like most times, if you just give these people or even like young kids the tools in place, like they won't have to hit rock bottom. Like they'll be able to get themselves out of these situations where their backs are against the wall. And it doesn't matter if it's just like your injuries or you're losing money. It could be losing a job. It could be losing a friend, or how to deal with different situations of not liking your coach. Like they're things that yeah, it's just life. Like we don't get trained to do them things, and it's not just, yeah, it's probably not just like a sporting thing. It should be, I reckon it should be put into schools, man. I'd love to see personal development put into schools, and this should be like a bit of a on the fence topic, but instead of religion. For me, I feel like there's so many different religions now that like you can't just teach them one religion. I feel like, yeah, it's I don't know what the word I'm trying to look for, but it's a bit of a on the fence subject now, religion. And if you can take that out and put personal development in, which everyone needs, then I feel like, yeah, it'll put not just rugby league, but the whole world in a better position.
Yeah, 100% agree there. Like, religion's more so like, your home environment. Your parents kind of teach you that. It's more of a personal thing.
Yeah,
Whereas personal development, bro, you need that. You need those real life skills that they do not teach you at school. They don't teach you how to deal with money, adversity, because you get away with everything. And as you said, if you're a good footy player, you get away with everything. Like
yeah.
when I was at school, because I went to Patrician Brothers in Blacktown, which is a big footy school, bro. All the footy boys would get away with everything. I was like, what the hell? These guys can like kill someone and get away with it. It's crazy what they can get away with, and they don't
Bro, and
learn anything from it.
that was me too. And there, obviously, big schools like that, I'd love to see it too, because I know that like 17-year-old me, if I had the right personal development, I could have helped so many other people live a better life and a more successful life. But instead, 17-year-old me didn't know anything better, and I was dragging people along to join my mistakes, and I was getting away with these things, and they were the ones getting in trouble. So yeah, life is bigger than yourself too, which is something massive that I've learned. I was pretty selfish growing up, and I know being at school, like you are selfish. That's all you really know. So man, it'll be massive.
And on that, like life is bigger than rugby league, NRL. Like I was talking to Isaac John last week about it, and he's like, "Bro, NRL is basically only an East Coast kind of thing. You go anywhere else in Australia, they don't really know much about it. You go overseas, they don't know much about it. It's really small compared to the rest of the world, and it's only a small period of your life as well."
Bro, I was talking to we had a podcast on ours with Darius Boyd,
Yeah,
and he said something pretty cool. He was like, man, in your whole lifetime, you live like four different lives. That you got like four different opportunities to have different jobs. I think it's actually seven. I was talking to Glenn, and he was saying that, but bro, you put that into perspective, and it's like far out. Like rugby league, or like, yeah, life right now is just such a small thing. And you might hate your job if you're not in rugby league doing something else, but it's a small minority of like your whole life expand too. So um, yeah, don't dwell on little things, and don't put all your eggs into one basket. That's something massive that I've learned, and something I preach to all the young fellas too. That you can be good at rugby league, but you need to be good at something else too. Because if you break a leg, you've seen Conor McGregor do his ankle like just
yeah.
out of the random, like something random can happen, and you need a backup plan.
Yeah, exactly. And it's good to see that the likes of Kalen Ponga, Chad Townsend building their own kind of businesses and different identities. It's not all based on NRL, which in return grows their personal brand and then the game as well because people want to watch them play.
Bro, I love seeing all that stuff, man, and I wish I learned that at a younger age too. Because if I was still playing footy now, you'd have more following, so you'd have more chances to like expand your brand too. So that's a big reason why I'm still playing the game. Like I obviously love it; it's my identity. But I know playing rugby league gives me a bigger voice.
Mm.
If I wasn't playing rugby league, as sad as it is, like not many people would listen to a would be or a has been. So yeah, you've obviously got to walk your talk, and I've had to overcome a lot of resilience. But I know that like once I do overcome it and get back in, more people will start to listen.
Yeah. And like you've identified, like rugby league is not who I am. It's a part of me, but I'm going to use it to be able to have an impact in the world. And I love that about you.
Yeah, thanks, Bahe.
Now, obviously, you got busted with drugs. Was it the second time? And then what happened? You asked a teammate to cover for you on the stat deck, and then obviously contract ripped up. You went back to back home. What was it like confronting your parents and telling them?
Oh, the worst. Like the worst thing. Like my mum and dad are so anti-drugs. They're anti-violence, pretty much. Hated me and my brothers fighting, swearing, everything. Like you name it. My dad's in the army. Mum worked for the police, so you can tell like the values that I instilled in us were like trust, honesty, and respect to everyone, your teachers, your footy coaches, etc. So um, I think that's a big reason why I try to lie too. I had a lot of money at stake as well, and I wanted that, but I didn't want it to come out in the media that I had done the wrong thing. Or actually, I knew it was going to come out in the media, but I wanted the media to be wrong, and that's why I lied as well. So yeah, I asked one of the boys in Wyong because that's who I played with in the grand final. Um, and yeah, I just got him to. I asked him to lie on a stack deck, as dumb as it was, and he wasn't even around. Like he wasn't even at our Mad Monday, so um, I was always gonna get caught, and yeah, he agreed to it as well too. So we both signed a stat deck. We are going through the courts to try overcome it, and then something I'm honestly to this day not too sure what happened. But yeah, he just stopped replying to me, and then I just had to cop it up front, which I'm so glad I did. And I'm so grateful for him for coming out to say that I lied on the stack deck because if he didn't, I would have got all the money back and I wouldn't have learned any lessons. But yeah, I remember the day it was coming out in the media. I was flying home to tell mum and dad, and as I landed in Brizzy, it must have hit the media. And I get in the car. We're driving back home to see dad with mum, and um, I just told mum in the car, like I started crying. I'm like, mum, like I've stuffed up. I've got caught with drugs twice in my system, and she goes, what? Like what have you done? How could you do this? And then she just wanted to hear my side of the story. And then all she just goes like, are you all right? And I'm like, yeah, like I'm all right. It's just dumb. I just need to get home to tell dad. And we would have been like 15, 10 minutes out from mum's house now where I am. And dad called her phone and he just goes, are you with Jayden? And mum was like, yeah. And he just goes, bring him home. And I knew from then, I was like, fire out, he knows. And I walked into the front door. But before I walked in, I made sure I chucked on some trackies and an extra couple of jumpers just because I knew, like, previously that's how dad disciplined us was, man, if you stuffed up, you just get a little whack. And yeah, I walked in and dad just goes, sit on the couch and sat there and, bro, he just started boiling, crying. And I was just like, I was like, what? Like, and he just goes, but son, like, what have you done? And I had to tell him. And he just was so disappointed in me. And I think what hurt me the most was seeing dad cry. Like in that position, I'd rather get hit and whacked, but to see the disappointment in my mum and dad's face, like I knew I'd failed them. And yeah, it hurt a lot. I remember going back into my room and I was just like brawling. Oh, what's the word? Bawling my eyes out. And um, yeah, I was so lost at that point. Like my parents knew the truth then, and then you come home, you're away from Sydney where you just were for 2, 3 years. Like I was just a lost soul, and wasn't working at the time, wasn't allowed to play footy. So yeah, that was sort of when the time where like I wasn't learning as well, and I sort of lent on the people taking drugs and alcohol and being around the wrong crowd and thinking I was my mistakes and whatnot, and yeah, it sort of led to more trouble.
How far did you go with the drugs?
As
Like
in, like what,
between that period being busted, going home, and then obviously turning your life around, were you
yeah,
like partying a lot?
bro, I was partying so much. Like I didn't have to work. Um, I was living with mum and dad, and they paid everything. They were paying the food bills, etc. So I think I got myself a little job driving trucks. So I was earning like 500, 600 a week there, and I would spend it every week just on drugs, alcohol, you name it, for man a long period of time, probably like a year, 18 months, and then I got done drink driving, high range, which means I wasn't allowed to drive. But then I was still doing it, like still doing drugs, alcohol, like every weekend, midweek benders, rocking up to work drunk. Yeah, it was just dumb. And even when I was about to come into back into rugby league, my band was about to be over. Like I remember I rocked up to training. I was still banned at the time, but I rocked up to training and I seen the ASADA testers there, and I was
Yeah.
just like, no. Well, but yeah, nothing still really made sense to me. Like I knew I wanted to make it back into the NRL, but I just wasn't doing the right thing, and that wasn't until I met Glenn, and yeah, things just started to click for me. And I think just having that mentor, someone that wanted me to be better and believed in me after that camp, like it just, yeah, it's it struck something in me to be better, and yeah, here we are now.
It feels like at that time you had a lot of internal issues which you were just masking with drugs and alcohol to try and get by. Did you have did you fall into like deep depression and wanting to take your life?
Bro, yeah, there was a stage where like, man, I was so lost. It was just like a constant cycle. Like I'd go out probably Friday, get home here Sunday, Monday, and I wasn't working, so I'd just sit at home, and then like the drugs, like the antidepressants, like they would run you down, and um, yeah, I don't know how far into it, but I remember I was just like crying all night one night, and I had to go. I jumped into the room to my little brother, Harlem, and yeah, I was here. I forgot what the question he asked me, but I remember I just broke down crying, and he just goes, "Are you alright?" And I'm just like, "Nah, like I don't want to be here. Like I just want to go." And I remember there was a night where, man, I was sitting in my room and I just wanted to get in the car and I just wanted to like drive it into a pole and just crash it. Um, and I remember telling him that I was going through them emotions, and he sat down and cried, and he just goes, "Jay, like I need you, our family needs you." Like gave me a talk. What you're going through isn't the be all end all. Like you can be something. You just got to keep doing it. And I think Glenn's camp with Redcliffe was probably a week after that talk. Um, yeah, that was probably it was a hard thing because as an older brother, you're supposed to protect your younger brothers, but here he is protecting me, and just hearing him say that he needed me, it was sort of like, far like don't be stupid, Jaden. Like you've already ruined your family name. Like it would be hard for Cody now in the NRL hearing his brother doing drugs, and then for my parents hearing their son go down that path after being so proud of them and talking here, there, and everywhere about their two sons in the NRL. So yeah, I ruined, well, I didn't ruin, but I tarnished my family name a bit. And if I had gone and killed myself and done that, like it wouldn't have just ruined me. It would have ruined my whole family. And like I said, life is bigger than just yourself and your mistakes.
100%. And by the sounds of it, that night was a big turning point, and then lucky enough you had that camp the week after. Let's talk about Glen Azar. He's obviously your mentor. What's it like working with him? And in the beginning, what was like the schedule like? What was it actually like? Like what did he put you through?
So I'll answer your first question. Glenn is the absolute goat. Like, I love him so much. He's like an older brother / dad to me, and yeah, he's given me so much. Anything that he can do to help me reach my goals and become a better person, he's definitely done that, and he's still there in my corner pushing me to be better every day. So I'm so grateful for Glenn and everything that he's done for me. He's given me a job. He's helped me create together these personal development camps. He just wants me to be a better person. That's what I love about him. What was the other question? Sorry.
Well, when you first started working with him, what was it like? What kind of schedule did he put you through?
Oh yeah. So I remember the first day he got me in. It was at 4:45 a.m. Like I said, and he put me through this values card thing. So I think there's like 87 or something different values on a card, and then he puts it into 3 different piles, and then eventually you get a top 10. And what he said was like, every decision that you make, any big decision that you make, try and make it towards these values that you live. I think you put it in your top 10 and then you nail it down to your top 5, which is pretty hard. My 5, it'd be on my phone, my notes were somewhere, but it was like family, friends, adventure, fun, and something else too. So he just goes, whenever you're feeling down, whenever you're feeling sad, or you got a big decision you make sure it lives to them values. And yeah, surprisingly enough, like doing that values thing and like what them things actually mean to you helped me change my perspective to different things that I was doing in life. It's hard to say too, like, but I'd really encourage all the listeners to actually do it. And I can send you the values card thing.
Yeah, that'd be
If you
awesome.
want, you can chuck it on the link notes. But yeah, it's a massive game changer. And then I think he was getting me in like once or twice a week. The next session he got me to do my goals, and that was like, what does a 5-year plan look like? And then you just break it down like to 3 years, and then you do 90 days, 30 days, and then like your week. And he wanted me to put in 1 physical thing, but then 2 non-physical things to help me put myself in a better position to reach my goals in a year or 5 years time. And eventually, like by me doing that, I had some mates doing that too. And obviously COVID hit, and then our physical goals started becoming based around running. And eventually, like, I think there was a few of us that ran half marathons. We ran marathons. I done 100K charity run on the back of just setting out goals too, and striving for something. So yeah, no, that was pretty cool. And then my 3rd session that we did, I remember the top 3 because they were game changers for me. But he got me to jump on his podcast, the Building Better Humans Project. And for me, I remember telling him, I was like, bro, I don't want to jump on a podcast because I want to do it once I get back into the NRL. And he just goes, man, if you aren't willing to communicate who you are as a person, the world will tell you who you are. And because I wasn't communicating who I was as a person, who Jayden is, all the world seen was the party boy and failing drug tests and drink driving and whatnot. So yeah, as scary as it was to jump on a podcast and actually be real, talk about my feelings, talk about failing the 2 drugs and drink driving, and then he got my parents on the same podcast and just to talk about what they went through, and then he got Cody on as well. Yeah, it sort of just made me think like, man, I shouldn't be being myself and communicating to the world who I am.
Yeah, there's some great lessons there. Like obviously, any life decision, anyone can relate to that. Is it should align with your, your values in life. That's probably number one. And then obviously the goal setting. A lot of people set these big goals, but they don't set out all the steps to get to those goals. And then they're like, oh shit, how am I going to do this? And after a few weeks, they're like, oh, I can't do it. And then obviously the podcast that you did is like accepting what you've done, accepting your journey and being okay with yourself. And they're great lessons for all the listeners out there.
Yeah, bro. Like, I'm a massive massive preacher of being accountable for your own actions. Like if you can't take accountability for your own actions, like how are you supposed to earn trust? How are you supposed to be resilient in
Mm.
overcoming adversity? Like there's so many things that just lead to um, that one value of like being accountable for your actions. So massive fan of that, and I'm a massive fan of goal setting. I've honestly over the last 3 months I've been so stuck with like not setting out goals, and you just get lost. Like we're in July now. It's
Yeah.
halfway through the year. Like you start planning end of year bloody trips. Probably not with COVID and that, but like life goes like that. And if you don't set goals, then you're just gonna get caught like being mediocre in this world. And I guess if you want to be successful, you do need people to be mediocre so you can overtake them. But
Yeah.
like if you want to be a high performer, if you want to be successful in this life, and don't play victim, like actually do the work and like plan out your life.
Yeah, 100%. Like goal setting is number one. And yes, accepting what happens to you. Like imagine if you weren't accountable for your actions at the Roosters, like where do you think you would be? Probably
Oh
bro, drugs and alcohol, who knows?
yeah,
But because you got caught, you went through all those dark times, now you're in such a better spot now and you've grown so much as a person and you're taking accountability for your actions, which is awesome to see and big lessons for a lot of listeners.
yeah, bro. Yeah, I'm loving this journey that I'm on, and I wouldn't honestly be on this podcast if I wasn't, because I know like if I can jump on as many forums as I can, like I'm gonna help as many people as I can, and that's my goal in life is to serve others. So yeah,
And what was it like telling your story for the first time on that podcast?
bro, it was scary. Like I think being in like an NRL system, you sort of have to hold back on like what you actually want to say. And not that I really cared at that time. I still knew that like there was potential of like career mail, and they actually ended up jumping on that story. But I knew they had the potential to grab stuff from that podcast. So I was a bit scared to say a few things, and a bit scared to see how it came out too, because I wasn't really a good speaker, and I was scared of what people would say about me. I knew he had a fair few listeners on his podcast, but man, afterwards, like there was a massive weight off my shoulders. Like I felt free at the time, and it was probably the first time, yeah, that I didn't have anything holding me down, and um, the real Jayden was about to come out and shine.
Yeah, and like podcasts are daunting in the beginning, especially if you're not a natural communicator, let alone sharing the story that you were going to share. Bro, I would have been shitting bricks.
Bro, unless I was on drugs or alcohol, like I'm like a quiet, like I just sit in my room and do nothing. But now, like you can't get me to shut up.
On the footy field, do you feel comfortable? Like you obviously in your position, you got to yell orders and like be very loud, and then obviously off the field, you just keep to yourself.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I love my position. I love big moments too. So I'm in a key position where like you can shine.
Yeah,
But yeah, like even on Saturday, like I felt so comfortable being back and telling the boys where to go and whatnot. But yeah, there's a lot that I need to improve on skill wise to get back to where I want to be. So man, I'm so excited, eh?
that's part of the journey, bro. That's why it's fucking so exciting, eh?
Yeah, 100%.
What would you say is some of the biggest lessons you've learned over this time period of what you've gone through?
Biggest lessons. Biggest lesson, yeah, for me would be to own your mistakes. Like, if not, for me, it held on to me for a period of like 3 4 years, and if I had just owned it from day dot, right, it would have been done. I probably would have been back in the NRL right now. So that's definitely number one. I guess number two is like who you surround yourself with matters. Um, there's a saying like if you hang around four idiots, you become the fifth. And if you actually look at it, like man, I was around boys who had were indulging in drugs and alcohol. Man, you most likely going to become the fifth. But on the other end, I've been around boys who have run marathons and done charity work. And fortunately for myself, I became that fifth or that next person to join that crew. So yeah, I guess for the listeners, like take a good look at who you are surrounding yourself with. If they aren't adding any value, or if you can see they're not the right fit, then don't play victim card. Don't say, oh, you have to be friends with them. Like you have a choice, and that choice is to either keep hanging out with them and doing the wrong thing, or removing yourself, putting yourself in a position where you are doing the right thing, where you are drawing value from people, and yeah, you can be successful in this life.
That's it. Like you're a product of your environment.
Yeah, 100%.
Now let's talk about bro chats. So it's the podcast, and then you run the youth camps and all that. You obviously came into that through Glenn. Was when you first met Glenn, was he doing those camps, or was that only a recent?
Nah, so Glenn's got his business background is he does Kokodas. So
Okay.
he has his business called Adventure Professionals. And I think he's done it like 86 times. So he's away 12 to 15 times a year, I think it was. And with COVID, we thought there was three of us at the gym. We thought, man, why don't we start a podcast? Like there's so many things out there where perceived that like when guys are away, all they talk about is cars, girls, sex, like you name it. And we just wanted to change it. And I knew, having just done the Building Better Humans project, that like talking about my feelings and what I was going through helped me. And there would have been so many people in my position, in the same position that going through the same feelings. So if I could help one person from listening from my podcast change the way that they think, or pull them back on the straight and narrow, then it'd be a success. And on our first podcast, I remember saying, he asked a question like, what does bro chat look like, or what would you want to do? And I said, I'd love to run personal development camps for young kids. And Glenn's one of those dudes that like, if you say you're going to do something, he usually does it. Like, he like 99% of the time does it. I remember Zaya was like to us, oh man, I want to do a podcast. And the next day, Glenn bought 3 more bloody speakers, headphones, and like we got it cracking. So he's a good dude to be around. And yeah, he sort of pushes you to actually don't just talk about it, but be about it. And yeah, that's sort of how it all came about. So Glenn wasn't actually running the camps at the time, but he bases 3 main things on physical, mindset, and adventure as well. Like he knows that like if you stay healthy, you'll mentally be healthy too. And if not, then like with the adventure side of things too, like he's massive on saying that this is like the best personal development that you'll ever get. Like we've run camps for young kids, and I remember one of our schools, we had 60 school students with us, and we told all the students to bring a torch to the camp. And we've walked up this mountain at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And we took like 90 minutes longer than what we thought we would. So we got stuck at the top, and it was starting to get dark as we walked down. And we're like, the boys, all right, pull out your torches. And only four out of the 60 brought their torch. So we just had to adapt to what we had. We had like 5 lights going. So we had to go on like groups of 15, 20 down the hill. So it was pretty dangerous if we weren't communicating to each other. Like people would fall down the side of the mountain. So, but like that's like one thing that Glenn says, like you can't teach that. Like and that's real life situations that we get ourselves involved in. So yeah, that's what we base our camps around now. And man, it's been a massive success. I think over the 500, we've had 500 kids just on the bro camps and the other camps, and then we've had like 6, 7 other schools. Over just the 5, the bro and the ALA camps, 500 kids that we've had, I think they said 67% of them struggle with anxiety. And I know there's like heaps of different forms of anxiety, but that's a massive issue. And it's not going away. It definitely doesn't help with the way social media is used these days. But yeah, that's why we run our camps, because we see there's a massive issue with our kids these days. Like they're put into situations now that we weren't put in until we were 22, 23. Like they're more aware of, or they're surrounded by drugs and alcohol. Firstly, at a younger age, they see more things at a younger age. Um, yeah, obviously they get to compare themselves on Instagram. There's TikTok, there's Snapchat, you name it. So I can see why that percentage is so high. But if we can run these camps and give these kids the tools in place to be able to handle themselves in these situations, to be able to communicate properly to the world and actually tell the world who they are and not be ashamed um, of who they are, then um, yeah, we'll be doing the right thing, and I know we are doing the right thing.
That's amazing, and I love that you do that because, like, I'm someone who deals with anxiety myself, and growing up, I've never been taught how to deal with it. I haven't, I wish I had camps like you guys are running when I was younger, but just didn't. That's something I've had to deal with on my own, and it's good to see that you're working with these young kids because now when they get to our age, they're able to overcome these adversities and deal with it a lot better.
Bro, you know what's like? I shouldn't say funny, but these camps help me so much more than what it helps the kids do.
Yeah.
Like I learn something new each time I do the camps, and yeah, it's honestly something massive. And one thing that I find that sort of annoys me the most is like parents are so happy to push their kids to do these camps and to be better, but they aren't willing to work on themselves too. So if you are a parent of a kid who's got behavioral problems or struggling or whatnot, don't just look at the kid too. Like look at yourself and ask yourself, like, are you being the best parent that you can be to these kids? Because I've been to a cafe probably 3 times in the last 2 weeks, and every time I've seen parents have a conversation with other adults, but they've got kids on their phones. Like, where were the days where like all the phones were down and then they were communicating with each other? Glenn was saying on our recent podcast that he went to breakfast on Sunday and he was out, and the dad had his 2 kids with him. So no mum around. Probably the only time he was allowed on his phone, and he used that time to be on his phone instead of communicating with his kids. The only time he communicated with them was to tell him to shush. So, um, yeah, human connection's a massive reason why these kids are going down the path that they are. All they want to do is be heard and to be given some sort of hope to be something in this world, and they're not getting it from the ones that they love the most.
Like I remember when I was a kid, bro, I was always outside. I bet you were probably the same, kind of kicking the footy around, playing with mates. Now these days, bro, 5-year-olds are having iPads and phones. I was like, what the hell?
Bro, it makes me so angry, and I still hate my phones. Like I don't play PS4, don't play Xbox, nothing. Like I'm a massive outdoor person. Love adventure, going away, being outside. So even when I sit with my little cousins and that, like playing Xbox, or I hear family members saying, "Man, if to their kids, if you do the right thing, like you can go play Xbox for da da da." I'm like, bro, that shouldn't be a reward. Like,
Mm,
if you do the right thing, I'll take you out to Dreamworld for the day. Like, that's how you build connection. That's how kids start to trust you. That's how they'll start to listen to what you are, and then you get a feel for who the kids are and what their interests are. Because I guarantee you, these days, parents just think the kids are interested in Fortnite and Black Ops. Like, bro, there's these kids. These kids are something. These kids were us not too long ago, and can imagine what our interests were back then. So, yeah, as frustrating as it is, yeah, and it annoys me, but I love doing what I can to help these kids, and the smile on their face and the speeches that they give at the end of our camps, like yeah, it's rewarding, and I can't wait to do a lot more.
yeah, it would be such a great feeling. And like on that, like, as we mentioned before, like these kids, they're a product of their environment. So as you said, these parents need to, I guess, be better role models and look at themselves and how they're parenting If not, their kids are just going to end up like them, and it's just going to be a never-ending cycle, and it's going to get worse and worse.
Bro, yeah, 100. And if you're ever in Brizzy, like after this COVID, I'd love to get you to come on one of our camps too, because bro, it's helped me so much, and I know it adds so much value to you as well.
Yeah, bro, I'd 100% be down for that. I'd love to. Hopefully,
Yeah,
COVID can piss off sometime soon. It'll be good.
we'll have to. Yeah, we'll tee it up definitely.
Awesome. Now, so you're doing the podcast, doing the youth camps. Are you still able to do that? Is COVID bad up there in Queensland, or?
Nah, so we're good here. We've got like the numbers restrictions, like how many people you're allowed per square meter, but we're still allowed to run camps where well you got to wear a mask outside. I think the rule is, but nah, um, everything's going fine. I think that's why they're bringing the NRL
Yeah.
to Queensland because we're going so good here. But hopefully COVID stays in Sydney and it doesn't. They don't bring it with them because I'd hate to go into another lockdown.
Yeah. And how often are you running these camps?
We've run a fair few this year. Next year, we'll start to just run them during school holidays, just because through the year you've got footy, or sports, should I say, not just footy. But we've got a bro camp up and coming at the end of this month, and then two next month, and then in
Awesome.
December we've got like a father son and a mother daughter camp coming up too. So if you're keen, for anyone listening, hit me up.
Yeah, that's awesome, especially when you're involving the parents, because as we just said before, they're the common denominator in all this, and you're being able to involve them, and which obviously helps the home life after, which is awesome.
Yeah, and like what we put the kids through, I don't think some of the parents would be able to get through it as well. And it's not just like physically challenging; it's like mentally challenging too. And even as little as getting these kids up to speak for a minute or two at the end of our camp about what they've learned, or what they're going to do to be better post camp. Like some parents wouldn't be able to do that in a group environment too. So,
Mm.
um, yeah,
And from what I've seen, a lot of it is based around teamwork and helping each other build up and become better as a group. Like I was watching that video, and you was doing a run, and half the group went ahead and half was staying behind, and you sat back and said, yeah, some of you may be athletes, some of you may not, but you've all got to work together to get through this run. And that I love seeing that.
yeah, that's life, isn't it? Like
Mm.
there's going to be times where you're going to be good at something, but there's going to be other times where you're not so good. So if you can lend a hand when you can, when you need it the most, and you put your hand out, you're more likely to get a hand to grab onto and help you push through the things that you aren't good at.
Yeah, like if you're bringing other people up, ultimately it's going to help you as well. But
Yeah,
some people don't see that. Their ego is like, oh no, it's all me, all me. Like I'll just do it myself. But in reality, bro, it takes a team to build an empire. Like
yeah.
look at fucking Rome, for example. It wasn't built by one person.
When you put it like that, it's just like far out, like, and that's why I help like serving people and doing what I do. I know that if I ever had went through any more struggles or if I ever needed anything now, so many people would pick me up just because of how much I've served. So, um, not saying that that's the reason why I do it, but that's just the position that you put yourself in by doing what you do.
Mm. What would you say is like your passion and like purpose now? Because obviously it would have changed a whole lot. It's not just NRL anymore.
Yeah, nah, it's far from just NRL now. Like I said earlier, like I only just use that as a voice to build on what I'm doing now, and my purpose is to build better humans, and that's the jump that I got on here now. Like
Yep.
that's our business, and yeah, it just branches off into three different things: physical, mindset, and adventure. We for the physical stuff, we've got a gym called Project 180. That's where we run the camps out of. Mindset sessions, we go to schools, we run programs in schools, we do the bro camps, ALA camps, and then the adventure that Glenn takes some crew to do Kokoda's Everest base camps and yeah, run adventure, which is the best personal development that you can get as I said earlier. So yeah, my purpose now is just to grow this as big as we can get, build as many great humans as we can, and yeah, not change the world, but do our best to have a positive influence on the world.
Awesome, brother. And what's a piece of advice you'd give to, a young kid listening today, a life lesson, especially after everything you've gone through?
Yeah, if you are struggling with life, um, or you do need help, reach out to someone. And if you want to be the best, um, or if you're going, just say you're studying business, or you want to be the best rugby league player, I'll put in that perspective, because that's what I'm that's what I play. But look at the top 10% in what you do, and don't just look at the 90%, because that's sort of the mediocre side. Like, if you want to be the best and be successful, look at what the top 10% are doing, doing right. Look at how they're prepping. Look at their rituals, the way that they go about things, and try to live the way they live. Because, man, if you live to the bottom 10%, you're no chance of cracking the profession that you want to crack in. So yeah, don't be a victim. Do the work, and the world is your oyster.
Yep, just do the little one percenters every day and you'll get there.
Yeah, 100%.
Now, last few questions. How do you define success?
How do I define success? For me, a perfect world of success is being able to provide for my family, my fiance, and my baby who's on the way. Um, I've already bought my mum a house, so I can't really say that, but owning my own house for my family, and success with outside work, it'd be to have other people as well, running these personal development camps with me, so I can step aside and yeah, overlook and oversee everything. So I've got a lot of work to do now before then, but in the process, I'd love to train people to be facilitators on my camp, and then eventually lead to overseeing it also. Bro, that's a good question. I love it.
Thanks, bro. Next one's going to be better. On the back of that, when your time's all up and done on this earth, what would you like to be remembered for?
Ooh, what would I like to be remembered for? Um, yeah, someone who just gives back. Someone who, whenever anyone needs it, I'm willing to help out and where I can. Um, and yeah, and just resilient. Like, someone that just, I know I've made a lot of mistakes in my past, so I love people to look at me to hit rock bottom, go through that 3 4 year period of losing your contract, injuries, having to move states, you name it, and then getting back into the NRL. So yeah, I want to write a book one day, bro. So hopefully that's still doing the rounds as well, when I'm 6 feet under.
Awesome. That'd be a good read. Last question. What's something you're grateful for today?
I had this question today actually, and I said my beautiful fiance Krista. She's 22 weeks pregnant today, and just the way she's going about life, the smile she puts on other people's faces, even when she's carrying a little boy with probably a big coconut head like mine. So yeah, just the way she's going about life, and then watching her body grow. Like, I've got so much respect for not just my mum, but women in general, to go through 40 weeks of what they do. So yeah, definitely grateful for that.
Awesome. Well, Jayden, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to jump on the podcast. I really appreciate it, man. Super grateful.
Nah, anytime, brother. And yeah, like I said, if you're ever in Brizzy or you want to come to one of my camps, hit me up, because I'd love to get you on. And if any other listeners who want to jump on any of my camps, just follow me on Insta, Jayden Nikorima, or reach out to yourself, and we'll organize it.
Awesome. I'll definitely take that up. Like everything you're doing is resonates with me, and the podcast, just goes to show you can be, the top, be an NRL player or be someone working 9 to 5 job, and you can still go through those dark times, those mental health issues, and then come out the other side. So thank you so much for sharing your story today.
Nah, thanks, brother.
All good. For all the listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.